the answers. All right, so what is the default request type that is used by the browser when submitting a form? So most of you wrote get. One person wrote post. So it's get. Yeah, if you don't specify the method for submitting a form, it's going to be get. Let's see. Okay. So then what is the difference in how data is submitted with the get method versus a post method? And some of the responses were, with get, all the info comes from the URL. With a post, additional information is given by the browser. Yeah, that's correct. Get request data form, request data from a specified resource, and then post submits data to be processed to a specified resource. This is interesting. This is what we want to get to, but this is not actually what happens. So like get and post are really this to a server. They're really the same thing. The only difference, or to a browser, the only difference is that the information gets passed in the URL. With the get, with the post, it doesn't get passed in the URL. Params submitted through forms aren't seen in the URL when post is used. It does when the get method, yeah. A get method is used to retrieve data, while the post method is used for multiple purposes like sorting and organizing data. So yeah, this is the same concept. So basically, the get method, you see the form data in the URL. With the post method, you don't see the form data in the URL. That's pretty much the main difference between the two in terms of how they work. Yeah. Questions on that? Just make sure that that's clear.
So that's the only reason for not display on the internet.
That's the only difference that actually happens. Now we want to use them differently. So we want to, when we use a post method, we want to use it only when we're modifying information. And when we use a get method, we want to use it only to retrieve information. Like that's how we want to use them, but you don't have to use them that way. Like technically they can work either way. So you can have a get request and modifies information. You can program it so that it does that. And you can also have a post request that just gets back information and doesn't modify anything. You can program it that way. We would encourage you not to do that, not to program it that way, but I think it's good for you to understand that it is possible, just to understand how these methods work. All right, and then the next question, write HTML code to create a form with one text field address. Remember that you need the input. Okay, form, input, text, and name, address. So this is good. The only problem is that it doesn't have a submit button. So you need, the user would need some way to submit the form or a button to click.
Are we supposed to see what you're submitting today?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Let me see. All right, that's better, right? Yeah. Okay, so this one just needs the submit button. This one has the submit button. Same. Okay, good. Write code in Sinatra for handling a GET request to the URL XYZ that returns HTML with a header that says hello. Get do. Yeah, that's good, except that you need quotes, like string quotes around this, right? And then get it. Yeah, this one is, I mean, I see what you guys were trying to do, and it might have been confusing with the header that says hello, right? But in HTML, when we talk about a header, we're referring to the H1 element or H2 or H3 and so on. This tag is just called the head. So when you talk about the header, you're talking about that the user is going to see a header, and so you actually want all of this HTML render, like the HTML tag, the body tag, the H1 tag. And someone wrote this get and then just a string hello. Well, this would work. Yeah, we want all of the HTML. And then somebody wrote this in PHP demo form. I guess maybe some of you guys have coded with PHP before. All right. All right, so then the next one is write code in Sinatra for handling a post request to the URL big that returns just the string 123. So post a big do. All right, so this is similar, right? But now I'm asking only to return the string 123. So you don't need the HTML and the body and any of that. This one's correct. And this one's correct as well. And yeah, this one's not correct. All right. Now you can see that right here, we're just returning the string 1, 2, 3. So this would be an example where we're not returning HTML. So in a form, or not in a form, but when you get a request, you can also return other types of documents. The most common document that we're going to be returning is an HTML document, but we could also return back, in this case, we're returning back a CSV file, but we can return anything. Questions on those two?
Which one is the right answer for the last one?
For the last one, these two are the right answer. The only difference is, well, actually, this one is the right answer because this is in capital post, and since we're working in Ruby, we need lowercase post because we're calling the post method, the lowercase post method. Any other questions? All right. And then the last question is write code in Sinatra that handles the get request small and replies with the value of address of the form data. So this one might be hard to understand. So get do session address equals params address and this one would behave correctly, but it's not correct, and it's not entirely correct because I didn't ask to save the address in the session. Let's see. This one would not. Well, yeah, I don't think this one would work either. No. All right, so all of them are close, and what I was looking for, I'll write over here. What I was looking for was get, and then small do, and then we would just return params address, right? So we're just returning the value of what was submitted to Sinatra. So question, yeah, sorry. So questions on any of those?
So the third one was almost straight at the bottom.
This one?
No, the third one.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing was there's two things.
Yeah.
So let me make it bigger.
Properties and quotes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. All right. Any other questions?
So you could, instead of that, what you call the semicolon, we could have like single quote inside the address.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then
Instead of a symbol, so this is a symbol. Instead of a symbol, you could have a string. Yeah, that's a string. You're passing in a string, or you can have double quotes, right? That's only for, actually, yeah, I think that's right. Excuse me. Okay, any other questions? All right, was that an easy quiz? Hard? Good? All right, so now this time we're gonna continue working with Active Record, trying to understand it more. And so we're gonna, to try to understand it better, we're gonna write a small application to keep track of books. So we have like a mini library, and we want an application that where you can add books to that database. You can search for books, and do those kinds of procedures. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Rails new library to create a new application. And at the same time, while that's going on, I'm going to create my repository library in GitHub. And then I'm going to add the remote link. So I have to go into that repository or into that directory. So git status, git add, everything, git commit, first commit, and then git push -u origin master. Okay, so refresh, and then I have all my code here in GitHub, right? So you should be familiar with how this works now. We've done it a few times, right? All right. So now in here in the library app, I'm gonna just create a new file, notes.txt. And this is just gonna be like, I'm just gonna think a little bit about the application and what it's gonna do. So I'm gonna start listing all the things that we want the application to do. So for example, we want ability to add a book, ability to search for a book. See what else we want our application to do. Let's just go with that for now. And then I also want what information I want about a book. So I'm going to do, let's see, book information. I'm going to add the title, description, and then year published. Let's see. What other pieces of information do you guys think would be good to have if you have a library?
ISBN.
ISBN.
What about genre?
Oh, genre. Yep. Good. Anyone else? maybe the location, right, of where the book is in the library. So if, most libraries use like a decimal number. So maybe a Dewey number. I'll just put Dewey. Anyone else? I think that's good, right? All right. So then over here, I'm going to go into my Rails application library. And then I'm going to generate my model. So Rails generate model, and then book. Capital book, and then it's singular book, because we're generating the model. Now remember that every time we generate a model, the code that Rails creates for us is this migration, where we're going to describe how to create the database table. And we also get this Ruby class in this file. That is it's a class that is going to help us work with books in the Ruby world.
Was it Rails generate models or model?
Model, yeah, single, yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to open up this migration file, and then put all these columns in our table that we want. We want to add them there to tell Rails then that when it creates the table for a book, those are the columns that we want. Right. So by default, Rails adds this t.timestamps, which creates two columns, one for when the row was created and when it was updated. I'm going to remove it for now. Okay. So then, let's see. So right here, I'm going to add my columns. So the first one is title, right? So what type is that?
String.
String. And then I specify the name of the column with a symbol. T dot description. It's also going to be a string, right? And then year, I'm going to specify it as an integer. Here. And then ISBN number, what type would ISBN number be?
Integer.
Integer. Author. Genre is going to be string. And then the Dewey Decimal System is going to be a string. And it's typically just I think it's just a number, but it has a decimal point, and then sometimes it has letters. So we're just going to represent it as a string. Instead of Dewey, let me write location for the Dewey Decimal System, right? Okay, so that's all of our columns. So now when we run this file, since this is saying right here, create table books, this is going to create the table books in the database with these columns. All right, so now to run this code, to create the table, we have to run the command Rails db:/migrate. And then that runs the migration and it creates the table books. So now we have a books table in our database. So one way to see that that the table was created and that things are working is by opening up the Rails console, Rails C, and then trying to load all the books. And you guys remember the method for loading all the books it's in the class book, and it's an active record method. You guys remember?
All.
All, So book.all, and yeah, it loads empty. It didn't give us any errors, so it looks like everything's good to go. So any questions on that process? Yep.
I couldn't get that one. This page like under DB and under migrate the file. This page right here. This file.
Oh, this one right here?
Yeah.
What do you have in that migrate folder? Is it empty?
I don't have a migrate folder either. It's just DB development, under DB development, schema.rb, states.rb.
Okay, and did you do, what happened when you ran the command Rails generate model book?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so that command just creates those files for you. Yeah. All right, any other questions? All right. So you guys have written command line applications before, right? Where it's just one file and then you use the gets method to get information from the user and so on, right? So now that's the type of application that we're going to do first. And then we're going to see how we can turn that later on into a web app that can be used in the browser. So first, to do a command line app, we're going to create another file here in our library folder. And we're going to call that app.rb. Right, and then I'm just going to put puts hello world in that file, and then I'm going to do ruby app.rb, right, and it works, right? So now if I wanted to load all the books, if I do book.all, and then let's see, I'm going to do puts book.all, see if it loads all the books. And then I'm going to run it again. You see that I get an error, right? Uninitialized constant book. Now, the reason I get an error is because this Ruby file app.rb is just running each line at a time. So it says just puts hello world book.all, and then it says like book.all. Book has not been defined. So I don't know where book is coming from. So in order for this code, when it's running, to know what book means, we have to load the file book from the app folder, models, and then book.rb. We have to load this file so that when this line gets executed, Ruby knows that there's a thing book, right? So, but in order to if we load that file, book.rb, then we also need to load another file that defines what application record is. So there's a whole bunch of files that need to be loaded. And so in order to do this, we accomplish this by instead calling the Rails command and command R in Rails, and then app.rb. And now you see that it works, right? And R stands for runner, and this just means that Rails is going to be running this Ruby file. So what happens here is that first Rails starts, and then it starts loading all these files in your app folder, and all the files that all the files in your app folder, and all the files that are necessary for Rails. And then after it's done, then it starts running the code in this file. So that's what it's doing. But what this is going to enable us to do is it's going to enable us to first load all of Rails. And then once Rails is loaded, then the code for our little simple command line app is going to start executing. So it's very similar to what you guys have done before, except that first we load Rails into memory, right? Okay, so what did we, let me go back to my notes. So what did we have? We want the ability to add a book, right? So first I'm going to do a message. So when I enter the application, so like welcome to library. And then after that, right now I'm just going to, well, I want to give the user two options. I want to give them the option to search for a book or add a book, right? Is that what you wanted to say? Yeah. All right. So do puts select one for adding a book, two for searching. And we're gonna do let me do it a little bit better. So just gonna do that. Add a book, and then puts search, and then puts the empty string, and then print with a minus sign. And so what this is going to do is it's going to look like we have a little prompt. And then right here, I'm going to do option equals gets .chump, right? I think you guys have seen chump before, right? Have you seen chump?
Yes.
Okay. And then say that that's it for now. So let's run our application, Rails R app.rb. So now it says welcome to library, and then it tells us the options, one for adding a book and then two for searching, and then we have a little prompt, right? So we can either do one and then press enter, or we can do two and enter. But in reality, we can type whatever we want. Right. So the main things is that we made a little instruction we printed out some instructions, and then we're getting some input from the user. So now how would we choose between adding a book and an if statement, right? So if option equals the string 1, then here we want to add a book. Put add book. Else puts search book. Should be else if option equals to, then search book, and then that's it. Right?
Wait, the enter number, can you just say wrong number?
Yeah, we can do that. Else puts wrong option. So let me test that. All right, 1, add book. 2 says wrong option. Let's see. Search book. And then if I add something else, it just says wrong option. So it works. Right? Okay. So to make this easier to read, at the top right here, I'm going to define 2 options. First option is going to be add. Sorry, not options, methods. The first method is going to be add, and the second method is going to be search. Right, so let's see, then right here in option 1, after I do add book, I'm just gonna call the method add. And then for search, I'm gonna call the method search. Okay, so here in this if statement, if the option is the string 1, then I print this out and then I go to this method. And then for search, I go to this method. And that's just so the code is a little more readable. So we know that here we're just doing the selection, and over here is where we're doing all the specialized work. Right. Questions on that? Okay. All right, so now here in adding, first we want to get information from the user, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the user for all that information, and I'm going to store it. Well, let's think about this for a second. Like first I need to get the information from the user, and I need to collect it, right? But where do I temporarily put all that information while I'm asking the user for that information? Like, where would you guys put it? A variable, yeah. So you can have a variable like for each column, right? So you can have title equals and then gets that chump or something like that. And then, or after that, like description equals gets that chump, and you can continue to do that, right? So for example, let's do that. Let's start doing that. So print and then title. So we're gonna print the title, and we're asking for the title, right? And then title equals gets that chump. Right. So let's see how that behaves. So let me run that, add book, and then we're being asked for the title. I think that works okay, right? All right, yeah.
So when I run my application and I put the, I enter one,
Mhm.
it gives me this there. It's big freaking head.
All right, let me take a look at it.
Oh, you know what? I think I figured it out.
Yeah.
It's not Elstead, it's Elstead, right?
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I had put else.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so then, so one way to do it is to keep adding another variable for each piece of information that we want. So for example, the next piece of information, what's another column? Description is the next one. So we could have description, and then description equals gets that chump. And let's do the year, year, or print year. Year equals gets that chump. And then I'm gonna just copy that. And then I have to add ISBN and author. And author. And then the genre, and I changed this to location. So the genre and the location. All right, so that's a lot of writing, but it's pretty straightforward. I think it's just the same thing over and over again. We're just printing out something, getting information to the user and saving it to one variable, printing out something else, getting information from the user, saving it to another variable, and so on. So let's see how that behaves. Add a book, and then the title, description, year, ISBN number, author, genre, location, and then that's it. Questions? Pretty straightforward, I think, right?
Do you mind going down to where you called the ad? Oh, okay. That's it, that's how you just call it?
Yep.
Ad.
You can also just add the parentheses like that to, yeah, and since in Ruby, when you call a method, you don't have to use parentheses. You can just do add. Okay. So now that we have that information, we can do what we did before, and that's we did. Remember that last time we had a customer, and then we did customer.new, and then we did customer that first name equals, so on and so on. So we can do the same thing here, but instead that with a book. So book equals book.new. Remember that this variable lowercase book is different from this variable uppercase book, right? One is a class, and then the other is a variable, which is now, when you do new, it's an instance of the class book. So book.title, we're going to set the book's title to the variable title that we defined here above, which has the value that the user specified. And then book.description equals description. And then what's the next one? Year equals year. Book.isbn equals ISBN. And then book.author equals author. And book.genre equals genre. And book.location equals location. Right? And after that, we can save the book. So book.save. So let's see if this works. So add a book. Think of a title of a book that we want to add.
The Lord of the Rings.
Okay. The Lord of the Rings. Description, orcs versus humans. Year, I don't know what year it came out. Let's say 1918, somewhere around there. ISBN, I'm just going to put something random. The author is Tolkien. Genre is fantasy. And the location, the location is, let's say, 531. All right, and so hit exit. We don't know if the book actually saved, right? Yeah, exactly. So do rel c, and then book.all, and you see that the book is there. Okay. This is actually pretty cool, right? Because we're using one file, one method to save the book. We're using another method. So we're using Rails R to save the book, but we can use Rails C to look the information of the book. Okay. All right, so now let's do the search method. Now the search method, just for simplicity right now, we're only going to search the title and the description. Right, so for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, last time we just had find, we just had the find method, right? And this time, what I want to do is give you another method, another active record method, and that's the find by method. So book.find by, find underscore by. Now, if you see that this is inside the search method, and actually I'm going to do book, lowercase book, equals book.find by. So this method find by, what it does is that it's going to go to the database, load information, create a new instance of book, and then set all the information in that new instance of book to the information that it got from the database. and then it's going to return it to us, and it's going to be in this variable book. Now I'm going to do a find by. Now, what I pass this method, what I need to pass this method is I need to pass it a hash that has as a key. It has a column that I'm searching on, and for that value is going to have what I'm searching for. So here I pass it the symbol title, the key is the symbol title, and then the value is what I'm searching for. So I don't know what I'm searching for yet, right? So I need to I'm gonna do title right here, because before that I'm gonna define a variable title. I'm gonna get that title from the user. So title equals gets that jump. And I'm also going to do print title, search by that. Now this is pretty important. I think that if you don't really remember how the method works, or sometimes it's complicated to write some piece of code. Like for example, this right here, line 38, this query that I wrote, it's complicated to write, and then when you get a bug, you see a whole bunch of lines, and then you don't really know necessarily what the error might be. So you have to rewrite it, rerun your code, so on and so on, and that can take a while, because in this case we have to go and select search book and all of that. So what I like to do personally is I like to open up the Rails console and then test in the console that I wrote this method correctly, that method is working correctly. So I open up the Rails console, and then I'm going to do title equals, and the title is the Lord of the Rings. I just set it to a string, right? The variable title has the value of the string, the Lord of the Rings. And then I'm going to do book equals book dot find by, and then I'm passing it the hash with the key title and then the string title, and look, it returned the book, right? So it looks like it's working correctly. I could have made a mistake. I could have written maybe like 2 like that, and then I would very quickly know, oh, I have something wrong in my code. Let me try to fix that. So using the console is nice sometimes. It makes it nice. Questions? Okay. So then once I load the book, then I want to do, I'm going to print, well, I'm going to do puts and then book.inspect. And that's going to give me the information in a Ruby format. So let's go, let me go up. Now I'm gonna run my app.rb. So Rails r app.rb. And then I'm gonna do search for the book. And then I'm gonna do the Lord of the Rings, and you see that it comes up, right? So now let's search for a book that's not there. So what would be one book that's not there? Yeah. So let's see. Let's say I want to search for Dream. So actually, wrong option. First, I need to select to search. So Dream. So it returns nil, right? So this method, if it can't find in the database a row where the column is of title is this what we're passing it, if it can't find that row, then it's not going to return a book instance. It's just going to return nil. So questions?
So you can have it to give us message like instead of nil, like book not found.
Yeah, exactly. So let's do that. Now, when we find a book, now I want to print the information about the book or print book not found. So if book, so now how would we know if the variable book is nil or not? Because we have to check, right? If book is nil, then we want to print book not found.
We can add an if statement or if book. If title equals nil, then puts that title's not in the library.
Like that?
Yeah, is that wrong?
So with this, so title right here is a variable that that has the value of what the user typed in. So it's not going to be nil because the user types in
Book. If book equals.
Yep. So if book equals nil, then we can say book not found. Okay. What was it?
I just like to play around with
So
the
you like insulting the user? Yeah. Yeah, this works. So then else, if else means that the book is not nil, right? So else, we want to inspect it, but inspect gives us like this weird thing, right? And so it would be, we could print it out in a nicer way for the user, right? Like to string but what we can do is we can do print each column. So I'm going to do puts and then title, book.title. And then for each of those, description, and then book description, and then year, book that year. I'm not going to do all of them, but you get the idea. So let's run it again. So search, and then the Lord of the Rings. And we have title is the Lord of the Rings, description, year, right? And then let me search for a book that's not there. stream, and then it just outputs book not found. Okay, so questions? Cool. All right, so I mean that's almost it, right? That's pretty much it, I think, with our what we wanted to accomplish with this app: ability to add a book, ability to search for a book. So I think we already have done a lot. You know, our little database could have like millions of books, and it would kind of work. But now I want to go back to this method, the add method. First, let me add and commit this code. Git commit. Add and search books, and then git push. Okay. So I committed my code. All right, so now let's dive a little deeper into this method, the add method. Right, we're doing print title, print description, print year. This is a pretty long method, right? And we're repeating ourselves a lot here. Yeah. So now I'm gonna show you another way of creating a book. In this case, it's just gonna be a little different, but it's gonna make this a little bit nicer. So the first thing is that instead of saving the information from the user in a different variable for each piece of information is saving a different variable. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a hash, and then I'm going to save the information in that hash. And I'm going to use for a key the name of that column. All right, so let's do that. So here I'm going to do info equals, and then it's just an empty hash, right? So do you guys remember that? That's just creating an empty hash, right? So then instead of doing title equals gets.chump, I'm going to do info and then title. So the key is the string title, and then the value is the information from the user. And then same here, description, info year, info ISBN, info author, info genre, info location. Okay, so I have it in a hash, right? So now what I could do, what I would have to do here for this to still work is I would have to change this, since I don't have the variable title anymore, I would have to change this to info title, right? And then I would have to change each of those to info description, info year, etc. But with Rails, instead of passing nothing to this method new, in Active Record, I can pass it a hash where each key in the hash is the column name for this table. And then each value is what I want the value to be. And so that's what I already did here with this info. So here I can just pass it that hash. So info, and then delete all of this stuff. And then that's it. So let me make sure that it still works. So I'm going to add another book. So let's see the title of this book. I'm not good at coming up with titles. So what do you have another title for another book?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. And the Sorcerer's Stone. The description, Harry the magician. But he's a wizard, right? Not a magician. When did it come out? Like 2005 or 2002?
No, 2002. That was the first one. So yeah, 2001 or 2002.
Let's just guess. The author, J.K. Rowling, like that.
Rolling down the floor, yeah.
Genre, this is fantasy as well. And then let's say it's 532. All right, so now it looks like it works, right?
It looks.
So just to test it, book.all, and we have it right here. Okay, so did you guys understand what's going on here with this? We're doing book.new, we're passing it a hash instead of nothing, and then we're doing book.save. So when we do book.new and pass it that hash, everything gets set. Yeah, so it's like the same thing as doing setting each individual attribute, but doing it all at the same time, setting them all at the same time. Does that make sense? Yep.
Scroll down. Yeah. Right.
Yep. So hashes are pretty important to Active Record. Basically, that's how we're communicating information to Active Record, is by passing it these hashes. For example, right here, when we're finding a book, we're constructing this hash to pass information to this find by method. Now, just so that we don't have to write as much, in Ruby, I don't know if you guys know this or have seen this before, but in Ruby, if the last thing that you're passing a method is a hash, you don't have to write the braces for the hash. So you can just remove them. And it's still the same thing. And then also, if your key in a hash is a symbol, you don't have to write this arrow. Instead, you can combine it all in one by writing the name of the symbol and then a colon. And then, so that is the same thing. So that title colon is the same thing as colon title rocket. And then when you're calling a method in Ruby, you don't need parentheses. So we could remove the parentheses. So sometimes when you're reading some code, you might see this right here, and it might be confusing. It's like, oh, what is going on there, right? So you have to train yourself to think like, oh, here they're calling this method find by, and they're just passing it a hash, where the key is the symbol. One of the keys is a symbol, and then the value for that key is the string in the variable title. Questions on that? All right, I'm running out of battery, so I'm just going to quickly connect. So the only thing is that this is only allowing us to find one book, because find by returns only one book. So if we wanted to find multiple books, then this would not work, right? Like for example, in the case of titles, maybe it's not as common to find a book with the same title. But for example, if we wanted to search by the description of the book, and we wanted to search a word found in the description, then we would want a list of books, right? We wouldn't want just one book, because maybe we only remember a word from the title, for example. So we want a list of books versus just one book. So let's work in that instead, make it a little bit better. So right now we have, first I'm going to prepare my database. I'm going to add another book so that we can search for that. So what do we have? We have the Lord of the Rings, and then we also have Harry Potter. I'm going to add the Lord of the Flies, the book, the Lord of the Flies, so that we search for the word Lord, and then it's going to return both of those books. So I'm going to do Rails R app.rb, add a book, Lord of the Flies. Have you guys read the Lord of the Flies? So I think it's like some kids get stranded.
An island and have this conch that allows them to be like the boss for the day, or what they have, or allows them to speak.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a weird book. So I'm gonna do the year. I don't remember the year. Just gonna do 1920. ISBN. I don't remember the author, so I'm just gonna guess like Bob. Genre is fiction. Location 535. What we really care just for now is the title. All right. So now we're gonna take a look at our next method, and that's the where method. So instead, right here, we have print title. Title equals gets that chump. Instead of doing book find by, we're going to do book where. Oh, what's going on out there? Nothing?
None out here.
Okay.
But it's probably like 10 people.
Yeah. All All right, so we're gonna do book.where. Now book.where is different than book.find by. Find by returns only one instance of book. So it's gonna return a book. Book.where is gonna return kind of like an array of books. So remember, let me open up the console so that we test it first. Remember that we did book.all, right? So book.all returns all the books, but it returns this object called active record relation, and then inside that there's an array of all the books. So book.where returns the same thing. It returns active record relation, but it's only going to return in that array. It's only going to return the books that match this condition. So let's do book.where and then title, and I'm going to do the Lord of the Rings. And you see that it returns active record relation, and then book ID 1, the Lord of the Rings, right? But now what happens if we search for a book that's not in the database with book.where? So if book.where title is Dream, you see that it again returns an active record relation, but this time it's an empty array. Now what happens if we had done that with book.findBy? It returns nil, right? So do you see the difference? Is that the difference between where and find by is that find by either returns an instance of book or nil. Book.where always returns an active record relation. Sometimes it's empty and sometimes it has books, but that's the difference.
What happened?
The police. So any questions?
Any questions?
Okay. Now this code right here is going to change book.nil. So instead of this variable book, I'm going to change it to books, because now it's going to be an array of books versus just one book. And now we have to change this from book not found. When we find no books, now the variable books is not going to be nil. Now the length of it is going to be 0, right? So I'm going to change it to book.length equals 0. So that's when we don't find any books. And otherwise, if it's not 0, what I want to do is I want to iterate through each of the books and then print out this information. I'm going to do a loop, books that each do book, end, and then that's what it's going to print. Right? So let me save and then do search, and then I'm going to search for the Lord of the Rings, and you see that it output the book, right? So now one last thing is that if I search for just the word Lord, it says book not found. And the reason for that is because it's when this method right here, where when I say title, when I get past this hash with the key title, it's searching all the rows where the column has that specific string. So it's searching for anything that has the string Lord. The Lord of the Rings is a different string than just Lord, right? So that row doesn't match, right? So it's searching for exactly the title, yeah. So we need another way of searching for that, and this is why databases are helpful, because if you had this in just in a file, then you have to write a whole bunch of code to do this. In a database, instead, I'm going to change my my where method, and I'm going to just change what I'm passing my method to a string title like question mark. And then a second parameter is going to be the string %, and then title %. So what this is doing is now we're not using a hash. Now we're using a little bit of SQL. And what this is saying is that the column title has to be like this thing, the question mark. And what is that thing? We're going to be passing this. And this is going to be, here we have % and %. And these percents mean anything. And then we have the string Lord, and then we have anything. So what this is saying is that we want to match any row that has that in the column title, the string has something, and then it has Lord, and then something else. And that's what these percents mean. These percents mean like anything. So then let's run this again, and then search, and then I'm going to search for Lord. Now you see that we have two, right? We have title Lord of the Rings, title Lord of the Flies, right? So our little app now has the capability of we're searching for a title. We just need to put a word in the title. So let me run that again. And then I'm just going to put the word "the" in the book. And we have Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and Lord of the Flies. Right? So we have all the books. So questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
SQL like title line question mark. Can it be like titles like can you change the title?
Change this?
Yeah, can you change that? Can you just like maybe titles or
Titles?
yeah,
Well, no. This right here has to be a column. It has to be the name of a column in your table. So remember when we define our table right here? So it has to be one of these columns.
I keep encountering some error, and I'm not really sure what it is.
Do you want to share your screen with us?
Sure, how do I share my screen?
If you go to if you hover your mouse on the left top corner, you see like a green button that says shares, screen share.
Okay.
They're protesting outside.
No, you didn't add that.
Oh wow.
It's like at the book where line, I guess.
Oh, okay. I see. Book equals book that where. Can you hover over that? Expecting. Oh, remove that space. Yeah, between the where and the parentheses.
Oh, is that really it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Is this seriously it?
Uh-huh. Try it. Try it now.
Okay. All right. No, what is this?
Oh, it didn't work.
I think the books, right? You change it. Books equals book dot where.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, it should be change the variable book to books here in line 24, in line 25, and line 26.
Where?
Line 20, go line 24, change it to books, and then line 25.
Oh.
Yeah,
Ah. Okay.
and then try it again.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay. Oh, I have 2 law books, but it doesn't look from that.
Oh, go up to so we can see the error. All right, let's see. Year. Oh, it should be book. Look at line 32. And then it should be book dot year instead of book.
Oh, snap. I didn't see that. Okay. I'm like full of typos. I'm sorry.
So for next class, we're not going to have a project due, but we'll have a little quiz on. It's going to be on active record methods, like the methods that we have seen. So try to review those. We have like the new method. We have the safe method, find by, find, all, and now we have the where method. So any questions?
Wait, what's the homework?
There's no homework for next. Well, the homework for next class would be to just review the active record methods.
Okay.
And this is going to be a Tuesday. That's going to be a kind of like an exception where we're going to have another quiz on active record methods.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a good day.
You too.